Models of Colt Trooper and Lawman Revolver to explain some of the differences in what to look at as far as the gun goes and the types of grips. So first we're going to start with the Trooper in 38 cal. It's in 38 special. And you'll notice, this is one of the earlier ones, it actually has a firing pin mounted on the hammer. Interestingly, with the grips, these are actually the same grips that would fit a Colt Python, and the earlier ones will have the crescent moon shape on them. This one just happens to be in nickel. Next is kind of prior to the 357 version is the Colt Model 357. And the Model 357 actually has the full target grips, fully checkered, and silver medallions, where the early Colt Pythons had the gold medallions. One drawback is actually when you go to eject the rounds, a lot of the brass will actually run into the grip. So that kind of led to the next variation of the cutout, which you saw in the earlier Trooper, of the crescent here. So Colt was making the Model 357 as their premium Magnum revolver. Around the same time they started making the Python in the mid-50s, and shortly thereafter I think they kind of figured there wasn't too much need for the 357. So then they just started making the Trooper in 357. So as you'll see here, this one is a little bit later model. It has the silver medallion. The Pythons always have gold. And the big difference between these two revolvers is nothing. So this one is marked 357. This one's marked Trooper. But as you can see, it's basically all the same. Same frame shape, same size barrel, same length, same thickness, same type of grip, same grip size. At some point later on in the late 60s, early 70s, Colt came out with the Mark III, which is completely different and uses completely different grips than the Trooper. Easy way to tell right here on the backside, and actually when you take them off. So I'm going to give up a big secret here for what people should really know. This easiest way to spot the difference between grips for a Trooper or a Python and a Mark III revolver. So the big giveaway is the Python or the Trooper model has a semicircle type fit on the top. The Mark III is flat. So you see here, it has a flat edge, especially along the grip. So you'll see the flat edge on the grip, that's always a Mark III. And the rounded edge is always a Trooper or a Python. So you'll see here on the frame, the Trooper or the Python, the early Trooper, has a rounded cutout, and the Mark III has a flat. And that's the best way to tell the difference between the grips. So if you're looking for a pair of Python grips, and somebody tells you they have a Python grip and it's flat, it's not a Python grip. You need to have that semicircle here. So that'll fit a Python or an early Trooper. And again, the Troopers will have the silver medallions, and the Pythons will have the gold. The Trooper Mark III is actually a completely different lockwork than the Python or the early Troopers. You'll hear people say it has a Python action. Sometimes on the Mark IIIs, that's not accurate. It's completely separate and different. One of the big differences is the Trooper has a leaf spring in here, and the Mark III has a coil spring, and the lockwork is different. Hammer's different. You'll see it has a shrouded ejector rod, and obviously, of course, it says Mark III. One of the other giveaways is the frame here is separated by the side plate screw, and here it's set back a bit. But again, the obvious giveaway is this will just say Trooper, this will have the Mark III. Both really, really fine Colt revolvers. In the early 80s, Colt came out with the Mark V series. The big giveaway is, as you can see here, the rampant Colt is over a big V, the Roman numeral for 5. And of course it says Mark V on the barrel. It has a shorter travel for the hammer than the Mark III, and the grips are much more narrow than the Mark III. I'll take this back off. So as you can see, the grip on the Mark V is a lot more narrow, and that's an easy way to tell, especially if you're looking at the grips. It'll be much more narrow than a Mark III, and of course it has the V on there as well. A fine revolver. One thing also they put in is the vented rib on top, where the Mark III are always solid rib, and the earlier Troopers are just rounded barrels, nice heavy rounded barrel. So those are the general differences on the Trooper models you'll find. Again, the early models share the same grip size as the Trooper and the official police, and generally the Troopers will have the silver medallions, whereas a Python will always have gold. The later Mark IIIs, again, there's a flat area on the grip, where the Troopers it'll always be rounded. So that's an easy giveaway to if the grips will fit a Mark III or a regular Trooper. As a bonus, we're going to go over the Lawman series, which is another group of Colt revolver. It started with the Lawman Mark III. Here's an example. Has the same grips as the Trooper I showed you earlier, nice color case hammer. And it's in 357 Magnum. The big difference is from the Trooper, this has actually fixed sights, and they're marketed towards police departments. They didn't have the adjustable target sights, but they're fine revolvers as well. One very neat thing about the Lawman, is they actually made a snub nose version. So you could actually get a snub Lawman Mark III. The earlier models had the exposed extractor rod. The later models, they actually had a Mark V, had a shrouded ejector rod. And here's actually a Mark V version. This is not the snub version, obviously. This is the 4-inch version. And of course, it has the Mark V, the V, and the V here on the frame. It has the Mark V style grips and the narrow grip frame. As I mentioned before on the Mark Vs, they're noticeably narrower, more narrow than the Mark III. So this is the best basic differences on the Colt Troopers and the also Lawman Mark III. Thank you for watching.